Hello and welcome to Youth in Politics. I'm Justin Chenette. Today's guest is Lynne Williams, who's the Maine Green Independent candidate for governor. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Justin. Nice to be here.
A standard question for any candidate is, why do you want to be governor?
Well, sometimes I ask myself that same thing, given the economic situation that we're currently experiencing. But I decided to run because I think that there's a paradigm change going on. There are situations now that most of the folks alive these days have not experienced before. There's, as everyone knows, the horrible economic climate, but there are also shifting modes of job creation. Globalization has taken a lot of jobs offshore, yet our populace has to work. And I think it will take a certain level of creativity and doing things differently to create the jobs that people in this state need. So I bring an outside approach to the questions confronting state government, and I would like to have the opportunity to speak to these approaches and to hopefully convince the majority of the population that I can carry out these things.
In the 2006 gubernatorial race, Pat LaMarche only received about 9.6% of the vote, and she was a Green Independent. Do you believe that you have a decent shot at the governorship?
I do believe I have a decent shot. I have, Pat ran a wonderful campaign. Pat is a friend of mine, but I intend to be in more places in the state than Pat or Jonathan Carter were. Jonathan, who ran prior to Pat a couple of times. I have, through my legal work and my organizing work, I have connections throughout the state. I mainly work with rural communities and community groups, and they are totally disconnected from Augusta. They are very open to my campaign. I have campaign committees in all 16 counties. 8 of them are actively working now, and we'll be getting the other 8 up soon. And I think because I am attracting people who are much broader than the Green constituency, much broader than very liberal or left unenrolled voters, I'm attracting Democrats. I have Democrats on my campaign committees, and I have Republicans who I've worked with on various community struggles. So I'm aiming to win. I don't know whether I'll have a primary challenge or not, but I'm going everywhere in the state, and I think there's a chance that I can pick up the votes.
What are the duties and responsibilities of being governor of the state of Maine?
Well, the governor of this state has less power than governors in many other states, and more power than governors in certain other states. Essentially, the governor has, I've always believed, somewhat less power than the legislature, because the legislature passes legislation. The governor can veto it. If the legislature is organized enough and has the number of votes, they can override his or her veto. So in that sense, the legislature has the final say, of course, depending on the votes there. The governor, I think one of the key roles and the key powers of the governor is the appointment of the commissioners. We are a bureaucratic society. We have numerous agencies in the state. Each one is headed by a commissioner, and it's the governor who appoints those commissioners. That's a very powerful position, because then there's a certain level of loyalty to the governor and to the governor's administration, and that commissioner then hires their deputy commissioners and other leaders in the agencies. So a governor can really create a sea change in the agencies in the state, and that's something, I should have said this before, that's something I'm very interested in doing in the state.
And as a Green Independent, what would be the makeup of your cabinet? What would it be, including Democrats and Republicans? What would it look like?
Yes, it would. I have supporters who are, as I said before, are of all parties. I have supporters who are of no party. I have supporters who are not even registered yet, but we're working on that. I would simply choose the best person. for the job. I sometimes, when I can't sleep at night, one of my fantasies is who I would put in various roles as commissioners. There are some fabulous people out there, people who are reformers and who can really, you need a thick skin to get the sort of embedded bureaucracy moving. You know, we've created this monster, and they control a lot of what goes on in Augusta. And they need some new ideas from the top.
How would you work with people who disagree with your philosophy?
Well, I actually have a lot of experience working with people who disagree with my philosophy, starting with opposing counsel in various lawsuits. We're a very collegial bar in Maine. You never express hostility toward your opponent, because in this state, you may be on the same side next time. The fact that I represent activists who commit civil disobedience has led to a number of discussions, I think healthy discussions, particularly early on in the war, the Iraq War, with people who were pro-war, essentially, and other lawsuits always bring out people who are on the other side of the situation. I represent community groups who are fighting what they believe are harmful industrial projects in their state. And I talk to people on the other side about why they believe these projects are good. At the healthcare rally in Augusta, where I spoke, the Single Payer for All healthcare rally in May, I walked over to the folks from the Maine Heritage Policy Center and supporters of private insurance, traditional healthcare insurance, and had a conversation with them. I mean, that's what I do, and that's what I enjoy doing.
You mentioned healthcare reform. In 1998, you worked for the Medical Care Development.
Yes.
And you were designing training protocol for home care providers.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about what you believe is needed in the state of Maine, whether it be keeping Dirigo, eliminating the Dirigo program? What, in terms of healthcare reform, would you bring about as governor?
I think Dirigo is a failure. Dirigo was aimed at 130,000 people. The last I read, there were 13,000 subscribers. At one point, I attempted to become a subscriber as a small business person. They were closed to new subscribers at the time. I think it just, I don't know what to attribute this to, but I think it's a failure. I am a strong supporter of nonprofit single-payer healthcare. Hopefully we will get it, or some version of it, on the federal level. The problem I see with the high costs of healthcare are not, in my experience and my research, attributed to doctors and nurses and physicians' assistants making a lot of money, not even attributed to hospitals making tons of money. It's the profit motive. I think we need to, I had many years ago an HMO in California that was a nonprofit, and it was fabulous and it was affordable, and just because you're a nonprofit doesn't mean your executives can't make decent salaries, but that profit motive is taken out of it.
We're going to have to leave it there. We'll be right back on Youth in Politics. Don't go away.